Hello everybody, how's it going? Today we're playing Line Dash, a game by David Fiandra, or maybe Davide, I'm not really sure. It became available on Steam on July 11th, 2016 for $1.99, that'd be US dollars. The developer describes this game as an arcade-oriented game that doubles as a procedural player-controlled multimedia sculpture. And I'm actually recording the audio for this after the fact because this game actually requires a lot of focus. But let's start by jumping into some gameplay. The goal of this game is to make the arrows that are flying across the screen hit the squares that are moving from right to left before the squares actually make it to the left side of the screen. When you left click, you spawn a new arrow moving downwards from the left side of the screen. When you right click, arrows that are moving vertically switch to moving horizontally towards the right and kind of shoot at the squares. The basic idea, of course, is that you left click to spawn a new arrow, and when that arrowhead is in line with a square, you right click to send the arrow at the square, hopefully hitting it. The twist is, if you actually do manage to hit a square, two arrows will be spawned from that collision, one going upwards, one going downwards, and you can right click to send both those new arrows towards the right again, hopefully hitting another square, chaining together, and repeat. The game features a free mode where you can do this for as long as you like, but also features an arcade mode where you have 3 lives, and if any square makes it to the left side of the screen, you lose life. Once you do 3 lives, you're done. But chaining together, hitting cubes with your arrows actually racks up more points, and you can rank yourself on a global online leaderboard. But as the developer said, being a game in which you can rack up points is really only one goal of this project. It is also, I take that to mean that it takes user interactive input, like your mouse clicks, and turns it into audio and video that's pleasing. I've talked about a number of games that aren't really games on this channel before, and I actually tend to like them, but a lot of people are critical of them, so I understand that not many people may like this concept, but I really enjoyed it. The game clearly expects the player to be honing their reflexes and timing skills in order to actually rack up any decent number of points. And I can tell you it felt extremely satisfying to get long combo chains put together. The point with this really simple mechanic kind of became a little addicting. There are 2 other mechanics that exist in the game. One of them is a small pickup that lets you spawn 2 arrows at once. The other is the occasional cube that flies vertically along the screen that if you manage to hit will actually start playing some music and presumably give you quite a lot of bonus points. I find myself wishing I could take this game on the go for long car rides or something because it is both engaging and soothing and almost stressful, which almost sounds like none of those things can really go together, but overall it's very enjoyable. When it comes to this multimedia sculpture part, I want to break it down into video and audio. For the video portion it's rather minimalist, but the colored palette changes every now and then, and it's pretty aesthetically pleasing, and when you see those streaks across the screen and when you sort of see the arrow gaining speed as it flies forward and then you time it perfectly, it works. I like it. I have 2 small suggestions when it comes to the audio. The first one being some background music for the main portion of the game would be great. There really isn't anything there, and I think that would add a lot. It wouldn't have to be strong or powerful, really just something ambient in my opinion would be plenty. And the other note that I have is that when you do get the musical pickup, it's rather abrupt and then it fades and it doesn't last very long. And I think having that blend in with sort of the silence of the rest of the game, the overall silence, there's definitely a sound effect when you spawn an arrow and when you hit a square, but in between that it's pretty silent, and then suddenly there's this musical riff and then suddenly it's gone. Personally, I think stylistically some more blending into that would be good, or if you add background music it might actually mask the silence and then that problem would fix itself. I want to talk next about the actual leaderboards and arcade mode. What you have been seeing up until now is just me doing an endless loop of the free mode, but now that I'm in the arcade mode you can see there are 3 hearts in the lower left. If any squares, as I said earlier, make it to the left side of the screen, I lose a heart. You can see the score in the upper right hand side of the screen, but you might have a little trouble reading it for one of the reasons we're going to talk about in a little bit. So this is very straightforward. You build up points as you hit squares and you show up on the leaderboard. I'll show you the leaderboard at the end, but I just wanted to point out that the footage from here on out is going to be of the arcade mode. But I don't actually have much more to say about the actual game. So I want to say first and foremost again that I really enjoyed it and that I think it managed to do what it set out to do, but I do have just a couple of complaints, most of them not too big. The first one being the Steam page lists partial controller support, and yet I was unable to get my controller or any of my controllers to respond to anything. But I think the reason why it's listed that way is because you can actually re-keybind the controls from the launcher of the game. It's a Unity game that was made to have the Unity launcher, and you can re-keybind there, which is great. Not every game has that, especially when it's in the indie scene. And I think what they were trying to say there is that you can actually keybind controller keys to do it, but by default they're not set. So if you're confused why the controller isn't doing anything, it's probably because you have to set it up yourself. Also, when we're talking about the launcher, that is all the settings there are in the game. There is no settings page. You cannot change any of the audio levels whatsoever, and the visual settings in terms of resolution is something you can set only in the launcher, and that's really the only option you have to you, which is always kind of unfortunate because, especially when it's an audio-visual experience, you'd think you'd be wanting to be able to either crank the music or dial it down, depending on what's more pleasing to the player, but that is not actually in the game. Lastly, my biggest complaint about the game, and really the only one that I think is not insignificant, right? The settings are pretty fine as they are. You can just turn down the volume of the application if you need to, but this one is kind of bigger. It has to do with the font. I have a lot of trouble reading this font. Those numbers at the upper right are more or less fine. The numerical characters, mostly like 3 and 5, there were some, but at the end of this video you're gonna see the menu. Actually, let's cut to that now. Here's the score page, and then following that will be the menu and the leaderboard. And the font is very difficult to read, especially on the leaderboard where I'm reading other players' usernames. I'm on here. I think currently I'm 60 something, 40. I think I'm 40th at the time of making this video, and it's not really clear to me how to find my name because there's so many names in that list, but that's it. Poor font choice. Other than that, nothing really bad to say about it. Totally does what it set out to do, and I'm very pleased. So all in all, if you're willing to spend $2 on a game that you could probably waste an hour or two on, enjoy your time, maybe come back to while you're waiting for little things to do, like maybe a video rendering or something like that, definitely worth your money. You should check it out. Again, that's Line Dash. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being an awesome audience. That's it for me for now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.